Well, it's been a while since I've used these tools. So this is kind of a really rough live stream. Um, I got rid of OBS after using it for a little while. But yeah, I just re-downloaded it because I feel like I have the time to actually like figure out how to use these tools better and more properly. I always felt like I was rushing my way through this stuff. And I don't mind having rough cuts like this, especially these days with the way that AI is. Um, because the way that AI is these days, there's a lot of perfect editing. There's a lot of perfect cuts going on, and there's a lot of really like refined polishing of things. And so I don't really mind being super rough, like super raw. I'm not a talented editor. I'm not a trained professional video person. I also haven't been doing this very long. I haven't taken the time to like really study all of the, video editing tools that people like to use for this type of stuff. So, maybe this time around I'll get a little bit better at it. Maybe this time around I'll, learn how to use the tools. But for now, I'm okay with having it be just kind of really raw, like kind of a little bit more authentic because of just the nature of the direction that technology is going and things of that nature. So here we are. It's it's June 1st, 2026. It's the night of Jupiter, and if you're using like the Gregorian calendar, Jupiter or planetary days and hours, but because I make an almanac, I'm going to use the almanac that I make, planetary days and hours. So according to Celine's Gateway Almanac, it's the night of Helios, and currently the hour of Helios. To be clear, it's 1:54 a.m. Pacific daytime, and that puts us right at Helios night, Helios hour, and probably pretty close to the sun being at the furthest point at the bottom of the chart. The midnight sun, if you will. We can go over some more of that type of stuff, but really I'm just kind of testing out these tools again, uh, trying to make myself more familiar with it. I noticed that I was trying to do too much on one scene. I don't know if anybody's familiar with this uh, open source broadcasting software, but it's really cool. It's really cool. It's open source. I'm really a big fan of that. And yeah, we'll just see how it goes. But let us first navigate ourselves to the Serenity Prayer, and as a way of just the way that I like to start out the podcast. I'll probably release a video tomorrow that's more like a intro to how I'm going to be breaking down these videos. For a little while, I tried to do a daily, like morning show style thing, like a daily tarot card. I might try to still do a daily tarot card in the morning. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of still like navigating through all of this and dealing with a lot of imposter syndrome. And also, just really like really looking at my chart again and being like, oh yeah, No, yeah, this is hard for me. Uh, the the chart, the astrology works. This is hard for me. Um, but maybe it's a year that I get good at it. But anyway, let's go to the Serenity Prayer. So, in case you're new to joining me in this, I am currently going through and will be going through recovery for the rest of my life for alcoholism, and I like to be forward and outward with that. And but one of the things that I found that was really cool through going to AA and going into the rooms, as they say, is finding the Serenity Prayer, which um, is known and associated with Alcoholics Anonymous, but was not originated by Alcoholics Anonymous. But it's just a really great prayer, and it's a really great prayer for everybody, especially if you deal with high level anxiety. And if you're an astrologer, I've adapted this to fit our practice. And to me, I think it kind of like is a good way to hit the source of astrology anxiety that some of us can deal with over time. Uh, sometimes you look out into the future, you're casting towards the transits that are coming, and you see that it could be pretty difficult. So sometimes we allow that to build up in our anxiety and in our focus. And so the astrologer's version of the Serenity Prayer is simply: Dear Saturn, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Mars, grant me the courage to change the things that I can. And Jupiter, grant me the wisdom to know the difference. And so it is. And you can see, you can almost see right away why I think this is a great addition to anybody's astrological practice, because it really does do a good job of approaching, approaching through the lens of astrology, through the practice that we have, approaching these things that we can't change. We can't change when the planets are doing their thing. We can't change when or where Mercury retrograde is going to happen. We can't change some of the transits and how they come to us, uh, but we can, ask Mars for the courage to change the things that we can change. Change our habits, change our practices, change the way that we approach life, and also, pivot and volley, the things that life sends us back into the ether. So, and then Jupiter rules wisdom. Jupiter rules wisdom, philosophy, religion, spirituality, and our ability to accept things and, be aware. And so to ask wisdom and guidance to know the difference is pretty perfect. On a grander timing scale, these three planets are used for judging the charts of historical events and predicting historical events that could come to us in the future. And so, it also makes sense to use these three slower moving bodies in the celestial spheres for this kind of advice. But anyway, yeah, I'm just gonna go back to what I was planning on doing tonight, which is simply planning for my week. I'm gonna pull myself some tarot cards. Once again, kind of, using the recovery model a little bit. I've been adjusting my tarot practice to kind of like fit my recovery, because one of the things that we do in recovery of multiple different things is we like to teach meditating in the morning, doing things for ourselves, doing things for our mental health. and reaching out to our higher power. And the higher power thing can be an issue, especially if God is a wounded word for you, like it is for me. Um, the concept of God, if you're raised in the West, is oftentimes associated with the Christian God, and the Christian God is a pretty wounded concept, and um, when if you have an alternative mind, if you have a non-Western centric way of viewing the world, uh, this can be a pretty rough part of your growth in the program of like trying to get your feet stabilized, because you're already trying to deal with not drinking or doing drugs or whatever you're trying to get away from, or heal in your psyche and in your body, and then automatically be faced with this question of faith and religion and divine essence, especially if you have deep wounds around religions and religious practices, that can be pretty rough. Um, cool thing about the AA literature is it does a pretty good job describing um, pretty much just a really good net of the types of people that you would see, coming into AA and the type of struggles that they would face. Regardless, or moving forward though, I've been adapting my occult practices to kind of fit the recovery model. And so, before I go to bed, and that's another thing that I've done, is kind of fit this more like following the moon. My project, my temple, my work is named after Selene, the Titan goddess of the moon. And a lot of that has to do with, remediation for my chart, but also, always trying to return to this experiential type of astrology, this experiential type of time worship, time divinity. Astrology is happening at every second of every moment of every day, and as I breathe, stars rise and fall. And as your heart beats, you can't get the last heartbeat back. Every heartbeat you feel is a heartbeat that's passed simultaneously. Every breath you've taken is one you've given away, and we're always on some sense of borrowed time. And so trying to take it even deeper into that experiential realm, I try to think about what it was like, before electricity, before we had all of these modern social inventions like 9 to 5 hour work days and electricity running 24/7 so that factories can run 24/7 and all these other things. So I try to root myself in experiential time, observable experiential time, instead of just like social construct time like calendars and clocks. And so one of the ways about doing that is to try to plan your day before sunrise, before you go to bed. That way, one of the benefits of doing that is, if you think astrologically, what the ancients would do is a lot of ancient cultures or pre-modern cultures, the day ended and began at sunset instead of sunrise. And one of the reasons for that, especially those that had good access to night skies, because, you know, not everybody's weather permits for building an astronomical practice, um, yeah, you would watch the sunset and then the sky would reveal the omens for the next day. That's one of the ways that they viewed it, was that, you know, the sun would set and then you would look to see what the stars would have to reveal to you. What omens would they display? You know, how far have the planets moved? How, you know, what constellations are rising as the sun is setting? And also what constellations are rising before the sun, right before the sun rises. That's called heliacal rising. And the reason why is because that's how you would observably make your calendar, um, before like the mathematic version of the Gregorian calendar. You know, you can see what seasons you're progressing through based on watching the stars and what the sun's relationship is to them as it sets and as it rises. You know, that's how you know it's time to plant, time to sow. And these days, with the way that we live, you know, we're constantly trying to sow and plant regardless of what time or season it is, and then shipping all kinds of underripe food all across the globe to continue this vain concept of having full grocery stores. You know, being able to have access to peppers 24/7 means that bell peppers are being grown somewhere else in the world and they're traveling a really long distance to get to your grocery store or to get to my grocery store, especially the organic ones or whatever. You know, like, um, we're not trying to live. Our culture isn't designed to live with the seasons anymore. But yeah, so after that, you know, long sidestep, you know, the goal is to plan my day now and get some tarot cards pulled and stuff like that. That way, when I wake up, all I'm focused on is getting getting myself dressed and showered, you know, showered and dressed and fed, and then I can just kind of like pick up my to-do list and just start going on it instead of like, you know, because my mind is pretty active at night, and you may not be the same way, but it's a little more groggy in the morning. And so if I don't have to like try to concentrate on how to organize my day, you know, that's going to help in the morning. And also, like, um, I can look at the schedule for tomorrow and kind of prioritize, and I can even do a good job of putting certain things into planetary hours that may arise. You know, so like, you know, maybe tomorrow I'll mow the lawn during Mars hour. That sort of way of thinking about how to approach. So yeah, get ready with me as an astrologer. I don't know how those things work, but so the I keep realizing that I'm not prepared by like having a pen. Here we go. So first things first, I'm just gonna get some tarot cards pulled, and so I like to write down a question. And back to the recovery construct, I am going to ask the tarot, which is my connection to my higher power through the recovery lens. Um, uh, what is your will for me tomorrow? And we're going to do this one at a time. What is your will for me tomorrow? And I'm going to use, if you're familiar with me and what I do here, when I'm doing tarot and stuff like that, you'll know that I'm a fan of this deck called The Journey of Oz and Wonderland. It's a fantastic deck. I love it so much. Let's see if I can get it to show up on the screen. Whoop. Let's go. Yeah, there we go. Whoa, whoa. It's so shiny. Anyway. Yeah, Journey of Oz and Wonderland. Wonderful deck. Love the creators. Actually know the creators, and they're wonderful people. Support independent tarot decks. Oftentimes you can find independent tarot decks being made and attempted to be released on Substack, and or not on Substack, but Kickstarter is what I meant to say, and other things like that. And so it's cool to see independent artists, getting a chance to like publish themselves on on platforms like that. And so, what is your will for me tomorrow? Let's do a couple cuts, a couple shuffles. It's been interesting. I used to do just simple, daily meditation around the tarot without like really asking it a question for a long time. Like just having a card pop up to like, just get me to think about it or share about it or something of that nature. But this what is your will for me tomorrow question has really been altering the outcome. It's pretty interesting. And I've been finding it to be helpful. And the answer comes in the form of the Queen of Wands. Queen of Wands. Beautiful card. Belinda the hen. That's the card. Queen of Wands talks about taking action, it's spirited, creative action. The queens all have kind of a sense of water to them as well, so it's a fiery water. Fiery water is the type of mixture that, like, obviously fire and water don't go together like really well. Water douses fire, and fire can't feed off of water, but if you use the proper container, then you can do alchemical stuff. You can do distillation or just boiling water, making soup, anything that goes in a cauldron, like or a pot or whatever, pressure cooker. And so to me, that's like a really interesting principle is what I think about for the Queen of Wands, is that to me, the Queen of Wands has that ability to know how to use heat in a way to make things that are special, and like to mix the emotional content of the water with the fieriness of the heat in order to have like spirited conversations or spirited inspiration and creativity that has like emotional content built into it. So just going to make sure to write down my card, Queen of Wands. The Queen of Wands is also in the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition, is the last decan of Pisces and the first two decans of Aries. So if you're not familiar with what a decan is, it's the last 10 degrees. Decan is a 10-degree segment, and so the Queen of Wands governs the 20th degree to the last degree of Pisces, and then 0 degrees Aries until 20 degrees Aries. And so for me personally, that spans part of my 7th house and also includes my lot of fortune. So and Aries is also the my activated sign by perfection this year. So that's actually a pretty cool and important card for me to get synchronistically, all things considered. And then I like to ask the cards, and I'm going to use a different deck. What form should I look for you in? You know, because for me, my higher power is my daemon. If you study ancient astrology, you get this understanding that that there's a belief of a spirit, a guardian spirit, a guiding spirit. Plato talked about his guiding spirit. The Islamicate astrologers believed in a personal jinn and a personal angel, and Muhammad, uh, blessed Muhammad, the prophet, blessed be his name, said that he had gotten his jinn to convert to Islam. And I think that's interesting that that's a part of the culture, that that's a part of the understanding. And yeah, so I like to think of it as like it's not just the personal daemon that is inside of me, but it's also co-creating with me, and will show up in the form of other things around me. And so for this question, what form will you take? I'm using this Tantric Dakini Oracle deck that I've been getting more and more acquainted with. I've been finding it to be very useful, and it's way outside of the norm. So I probably won't even know which card it's popping up as, and I might have to read the book. If I do read the book, I'll read it out loud so that you can hear what's going on. Oh, and I got the Burning Bush, the Lineage Tree. That's interesting. I've not received this card yet, so let's see. It's a pretty cool card. Trying to figure out how to adjust, making sure you can see it. I have to work on that. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and write this down, number 34. Burning Bush. I'm not going to do this like long format live thing very often, but I just, like I said, I'm just kind of testing this stuff out again. I'll go ahead and read from this book though to see what 34 says. Burning Bush Lineage Tree bears the number 34. Signifying the completion of a cold preparation. According to the classification by elements, this is a fire card, normally related to the suit of wands in the minor arcana of the traditional tarot. In the center of a reddish leaf tree, symbolizing the passionate, fiery nature of tantric revelation, the hierarch Karmapa sits on a lotus, the sign of his spiritual exaltation. He is the embodiment of tantric transmission, the occult teachings of Tibet. As the expression of celestial compassion, he is crowned with the mystic Vareya Mukut, the black hat of the Dakinis. It is said that mere sight of this crown is sufficient to evoke the urge for enlightenment. In one hand, the Lama holds the Mahamudra, book of tantric practices, which teach the shortest way to enlightenment within a lifetime. The other hand bestows blessings with an outstretched, mystic gesture. The flames tell the inner spiritual fire of conviction and a halo suggesting that spirituality is all encompassing. Above the head, a rainbow spectrum of light beams indicates the hotline to the spiritual lineage. This Lama figure represents true compassionate wisdom, self-incarnated through the yoga of consciousness transmission. The whole tree is itself supported by a most beautiful lotus pointing to the spirituality inherent within. Divinatory meaning. A highly favorable and auspicious card, indicating an opportunity or need for the questioner to connect directly with the lineage of mystic teachings. The card presents a moment of insight and revelation at any place on the Tree of Life. It should be meditated upon a place of refuge. This card also suggests the deeper feelings of faith are being evoked or tested. It tells the need of the questioner to eliminate all doubts about the future. Do not hesitate. Be firm in your convictions about the task ahead. Honor the existence of metaphysical authorities and do not doubt their compassionate nature. Awesome. Cool card. Something to really think about. It's interesting that it's also a fire-based card. So I've got the Queen of Wands and then this Burning Bush card, which was speaking about ancient wisdom and teaching lineages and finding divine guidance and inspiration. So that's cool. And then the third question I like to ask is from the Light Seers Tarot. I haven't been doing this style of practice very long. Definitely been doing tarot and things of that nature for a really long time, but this style of asking questions is new, and I'm trying to basically just adopt my tarot to my recovery practice. So instead of trying to replace it or add something else, I'm just trying to be adaptable. And so from the Light Seers Tarot, I simply ask, what is my mantra for the day? And the reason why is because if you're not familiar with the Light Seers Tarot, it gives a mantra for each card. And so usually on the inspirational side, regardless of the card. And, I think that's really helpful too, because even on the challenging cards, the mantra reflects the challenge. It doesn't bypass it. And so the mantra actually helps you move through the difficult card instead of just every card is a positive mantra, which I don't think would be helpful. But yeah, so what's my mantra for tomorrow? And it comes from the Hierophant. Once again, another spiritual card that has to do with, the Hierophant is the keeper of the keys, and one of the things that is constantly associated with the Hierophant is this idea that the priest or the Hierophant is guarding you from secret knowledge, but really it's more about passing on secret knowledge in the amounts that you can obtain it or hold it properly. I myself definitely like to go on really serious dives into the things that I'm studying, and I can kind of give myself too much to study all at once. And so, taking actual courses has been helpful, and just being dosed out the knowledge instead of trying to absorb it all at once. But here's what the Light Seer Tarot Hierophant looks like. Very happy guy sitting on a cushion in front of a staircase. And I think I have this mantra memorized, but I'm just going to wait to read it. I've gotten this card a few times. And the mantra says, I am my own guru, and the guidance I need is rooted in my faith, my belief, and my unique essence. I am my own guru, and the guidance I need is rooted in my faith, my belief, and my unique essence. Mantra Hierophant. And then, yeah, I'm an astrologer. So what's the astrology for tomorrow? Let's take a look. What is going on tomorrow? If you're not familiar with the brand Honeycomb, you might want to check them out. Astrological planners built around your chart. Help tell you what is going on and how the transits are going to be hitting you directly. I am not sponsored by Honeycomb, but if they wanted to sponsor me for a very, very low price, I would be very happy about that. But I'll probably just keep talking about them anyway. So for tomorrow, for Gregorian June 1st, before and after sunrise, we have Mercury moving into Cancer. That'll happen here in like 2.5 hours, regardless of your time zone. So like currently it's 2:30 in the morning, and so Mercury moves into Cancer at around 5 o'clock in the morning here where I am in the Pacific zone. And then the moon is going to end its voidal course at around 6:19 tomorrow, when it moves from Sagittarius into its detriment into Capricorn, and then it'll oppose Mercury at around 8:30 tomorrow night. As Mercury will be in Cancer and the moon will just be freshly into Capricorn, and those are basically the two major transits tomorrow. But for me personally, Mercury in Cancer is going to be trining my Pluto. Whenever anything moves through Cancer, it starts trining all my Scorpio planets. Saturn in Aries for me tomorrow is going to trine my Uranus. So it'll be interesting to see how that feels. Transiting Mercury is going to oppose my natal Neptune at the beginning degrees of Capricorn, and the moon in Capricorn will also, around that time, be conjoining my natal Neptune, same planet. So around like 7 o'clock my time, Mercury is going to transit Mercury in Cancer is going to oppose my natal Neptune, and then an hour later, when the moon moves into Capricorn, it's also going to be transiting my Neptune. So really interesting to see how that plays out tomorrow for me personally. If you have anything in the earliest degrees of Capricorn, let me know in the comments. Tell me what you think or how your day goes as far as that's considered. And yeah, and that's pretty much all I planned to do today. And I think I'll just leave it at that. And maybe we'll go take a look at Stellarium for a second. And this is the current sky facing south. And what we have on the grid here, the grid that I'm showing is the moon. This is the ecliptic grid. This is the grid that's based on projecting to the pole stars, but also based on the path of the sun. Ugh, definitely getting tired. And so what I want to point out here is that the moon is that the bending is still close to the bending of the nodes. And in case you've never had the chance to look at this, you might find this interesting. So where this comet is, I like that this comet is right here. It shows this line, and this line is actually the ecliptic line. And the reason why you can tell that is because there's a 0 over here, and so that means this line is the line that the sun passes on. And the moon is at the bending, or near the bending, so it's well below that line, that path of the sun line. And it will start making its way back up to cross this 0 degree center line. And you know when the moon's at the south node because it'll cross down this way, and you know that it's at the north node because once it hits bottoms it climbs up and it'll climb across the ecliptic this way. So anyway, I think that's fun and helpful, and I hope you enjoyed that. Regardless, we'll go ahead and finish this live stream the way I started, with the astrologer's serenity prayer. Saturn, please grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Mars, grant me the courage to change the things that I can. And Jupiter, please give me the wisdom to know the difference. I'm Rev Dev. You've been watching Selene's Gateway, and I hope to see you again. Have a great day.